Alright guys, welcome back to another cube draft. We're still drafting my cube today. Um, Usually I'd be really interested in taking the Jace here. I'm going to take the Flooded Strand. I'm trying to be better about taking safer picks, especially early. One of my habits is to take something that kind of pushes me into a lane. But by doing it this way, I get a little bit of an option to stay more open. So I think that Sunken Hollow is another notable pick, but the fetches are going to generally leave you a little bit more open in terms of your fixing, whereas Sunken Hollow is something that I'm more likely to take when I'm committed. Okay, there's an Exhume and a Soul Exchange. I think if we take the Exhume, we can wield the Soul Exchange, so, um, that's kind of the most powerful card in the pack. Most powerful effect by a long shot for sure. I'll take Sensor here. Nothing really standing out to me. I mean, we could try blue-white, but I think the blue-black is just far superior in terms of its ability to play Reanimator. Pardon me. There's an Urborg, but I think the Omen Speaker is the best here. Just being able to filter is nice. Jace or Glenolendra, I think both are fine. I wanted to take Jace there just because if we do end up in control and not in Reanimator, these three cards are all great. So, you got a Sensor, you got an Omen Speaker, and you got a Jace. That's the beginnings of a fine blue X control deck. So, alright. There's an Emrakul. I think that we just take the Emrakul, and then if we don't end up on Reanimator, we can still potentially play that, actually, because it's somewhat castable in your control / ramp decks if we end up like green-blue or, in heavy control, so. Blue's Delta, Thoughtseize. I think I'm going to take the Thougeize here, even though the Delta is great fixing. If we end up blue-black, we still don't know if we're blue-black yet. So, here it's just Pathrazer. It's the only thing that I'm really interested in reanimating. I mean, Endrace Forerunners is fine, but Pathrazer is just much better. Alright, Inquisition. So now we're hitting kind of our stride into this blue-black potential reanimator deck. We don't have 2 reanimation spells yet, or like 3, which would be ideal. But, we're in pack 1 and we have one reanimation spell and 2 fairly decent targets. 2 of the best, really. Yeah, so I think we can pretty confidently say that we're going to be in Reanimators, so, guess we take Noose Constrictor in case we want to be bug. The rest of that pack is kind of mediocre. Stomping Ground in case we need fetchable fixing. For red, like if we get like Faithless Looting plus Noose Constrictor or something. Or if we just pick up like a Scalding Tarn and we just need a fetchable duel. For green, if we pick up like a Piper effect or something. Although, I'm leaning away from playing bug. It tends to not do as well as blue-black. So, I think that green-black is very viable. But yeah, I think that you want to stay kind of in 2 colors a lot of the time whenever you're playing these combo decks because you don't want to be on a lot of mana anyway. So, I guess here I just take Overgrowth. That way, if we end up bug for whatever reason, we can just actually cast some of the fatties. BCR is fine. Hornet Queen is a reasonable reanimator target. Not amazing, but like I'd play it. Okay, Duress. There's a Piper here, but I think Shapeshifter is actually better in this deck, just because it really fits with what we're trying to do. Because we're trying to put things in our bin, which can sometimes be tricky to balance with the cheat into play effects if you don't have enough targets. So like, you put stuff in your bin and then you draw your whatever, let's say your Piper effect, and then you can't Piper it into play because it's in your graveyard. So that can sometimes be awkward, but this is shaping up to be a pretty reasonable deck, though. Very happy about this heading into the middle of pack 2. I'm just going to take this Search for a Sconce. I think it's a playable card. It's not something I'm super hyped about because it's very slow, but it could be useful in a grindier matchup if we play against like Control or something. There's a Shieldred. Yeah, that's the pick. I mean, Misty Rainforest could be fine, but again, we're not really trying to be bug if we don't have to, and I'd rather have secure some of the better reanimator targets, especially since pack 1 we didn't wheel the Soul Exchange, which is a sign that someone else is trying to take stuff out of reanimator. So that's something I'm considering too as I'm looking at these. At some of the cards that I'm getting, is that if I can cut that person out of Reanimator more fully, then my deck will be somewhat better. But this is kind of weird, right? If someone else is in Reanimator, why would they wheel the Buried Alive? So they must have seen a reanimation spell in that pack and then thought no one else is on Reanimator anyway. I'll just wheel this and then I'll be fine. Maybe that's possible. Zombify is a really good pickup here. Obviously, Llanowar Waste is fine. The lands they're going to fix for our bug colors are all fine. None of them are bad, but... So now we have 2 reanimation spells and a Buried Alive. So that's kind of nice. Unfortunately... Pardon me. Unfortunately, our mana is going to be kind of constrained at the moment. We just don't have a lot of fixing. Yeah, I'll take Breeding Pool in case we end up bug, I guess. No. Yeah, Ash Barrens is a little bit better, actually. Just because it fixes for all 3 of our colors if we are in bug. And if we're in blue-black, it's actually useful, unlike Breeding Pool, so... I think there's a world where Breeding Pool would have been fine there, but I changed my mind. This is just a Downfall. Downfall is the best pick in that pack. Versatile removal spell. We kind of need that kind of stuff just in case we do play against bigger threats. Because by nature our deck is slightly less consistent than some of the more mid-range decks, and it's a lot more fragile, but it's going to be on average a lot faster, right? Like a turn 4 Emrakul is kind of quick. I'm go with Laybear the Heart here. I really like targeted this card in Reanimator decks. I think that it's a really great way to protect your combo. And most of the time I like it more than holding up counter magic because a lot of the time your mana is constrained. So because this deck can operate on such little mana, I'd prefer to go like turn 2 or turn 3 duress into Heir of the Falcon Wrath or something, discard my guy, my big fatty, and then turn 3 or 4, or turn 4 reanimate. So this is a Prog Sphinx here. It's fine, probably not making the cut. Opt is great. I'm surprised to see that Jace this late, but okay, we'll take the Misty now that it wheeled. It's kind of weird. We're at 19 pretty playables after pack 2, so we don't have that much ground to cover, actually. Fatal Push is a Champion Aronis. There's a counter spell, but we're kind of tight on blue fixing, so I'm going to go with the Literal Core, I think. It's a pretty good discard outlet. Again, I don't think that we want to be bug, just because our fixing is awful, and 2, I think that generally the fixing is actually what makes that deck less operable. There's a Necromancy. I think that's a pretty clear pick. So Lily's a good card. There's an Oath of Jace. There's a Knight Incarnate. We don't really have a lot of sweeper effects, and I think we might need some against aggro, so I'm kind of leaning towards this Knight Incarnate. Of course, Lily is also good against aggro, and Oath of Jace is something that we hope to wheel, though if it doesn't happen, it's not that big a deal. We have, some discard outlets, I guess. It's not that, we don't have that many, so it would be nice if it did wheel. There's also an Heir of the Falcon Wrath in this pack, so if we could wheel that, then we're more on track. So, I think we're headed somewhere, but I guess we'll see. Alright, Charcoal Diamond is kind of calling out to me at the beginning of this. Yeah, it's gotta be the Diamond. Just because it's extra fixing. That's really the reason at this point. We're not getting that on our lands, so the Diamond is kind of important. It's also a 2 CMC rock, which is, of course, great. It allows us to turn 3 Zombify. No, that's not true, though. Because we still have to play, like, a discard outlet. So, I guess if we, like, kept a hand on the draw, discarded our fatty, and then played, like, land, Charcoal Diamond, it accelerates us by a turn, which is nice. Alright, go for the throat. Go for the throat. There's nothing really else in this pack. Yeah, not for us at least. I'm going to actually cut this Hero's Downfall now. We want our removal to be really efficient in this deck. Just because, like I said, we tend to operate on very few lands. We don't really want to be playing the traditional control shell. We want to play a combo shell and operate on minimal mana and spells that are very efficient. So, oof. Well, there's a Merfolk Looter. There's also a Mere Battlesphere. I think the Mere Battlesphere is less likely to wheel, which is why I took it. Yeah, that's less likely to come back to me. And if we don't hit the Looter, it's not the end of the world. Like, it's still playable, regardless. Like this deck, that is. But I think we should probably, at this point, start cutting some of our top end, like the Knight Incarnate and the Jace. Knight Incarnate is probably playable, but it could be cuttable in the main board, and then you bring it in the side. But right now, I think we do need 1 Wrath in the main. So if we find another Wrath, then we can maybe cut that, but at the moment. Tangle Wire is kind of interesting in this deck. But Dungeon Geist, I guess, is something that can come in mid-range matchups if we need it. As like a tap down your guy and buy some time. Okay, yeah, Henny's expertise is very good. And that's the second Wrath that we were talking about. I think that it really kind of does what this deck wants to do. Even though it's double black, which is kind of problematic, the fact that it allows you to go like Wrath the board, Necromancy your creature is really great. Yeah, not so good with Exhume. That's the downside of it. Because then you kill their stuff and then they immediately get something back. But very good with like Necromancy. I don't think we're going to pick up another reanimation spell at this point. Yeah, I'll take Remands. I don't think we want to be unpacked actually in this deck. Air the Falconwrath, that's pretty easy. And I think we can probably cut Omen Speaker and maybe search for Skanta at this point. But also probably Jace. I keep leaving Jace in because, pardon me, because at the moment, you know, it's fine, but I think now we finally have enough to cut him. Okay, this pack doesn't really matter that much. I'm leaning towards Sylvan Caryatid just because it's a hexproof blocker if we end up, you know, sighting into Bug for whatever reason. Okay, Drag Tusk, I guess. It's another fine card, not amazing. Our Reanimation Suite is a little less interactive than I'm used to having. I'm used to having like a Woodfall Primus or something that blows up permanents. This one is kind of really good at creating a lot of blockers, or really good at just beating face. And Shieldred does a good job of like keeping the board clear, or you know, creating an engine, a value engine, so that it can play kind of like a mid-range deck if you need to. Yeah, I kind of like having Hornet Queen actually. 5 reanimation targets is really great. The more that you have, the more likely you are to hit the things you need. I think Search for Visconti is just a little slow. Like I could see myself cutting something else for it, but it just feels like the slowest card in the deck, and I think that's why I want to cut it. So yeah, I think this is our list. Ash Barrens. Yeah. I added 2 blue as opposed to 2 black there because I think that casting the Shapeshifter is going to be a little bit harder. So, you know, we're at 8 and 7. More lands, which seems fine, plus a Ash Barrens. Yeah, this seems fine. And we have a Charcoal Diamond too, so that kind of evens out on the black sources. So, alright, let's head into the match. Alright, so we lost the die roll. Alright, we're on the draw. Swamp, Swamp, Island, Go for the Throat, Shieldred, Supreme Will, and Looter El Core. Yeah, this hand seems fine, so we're going to keep this. Okay, it looks like we're playing against Ramp. We'll just lead on Island. Got 3 swamps in hand, so... Nissa. Alright. That makes our Shieldred a lot worse.
Yeah, so if we were able to reanimate Shieldred early, Exhume, perfect. Okay, so we'll be able to get her out next turn. Assuming that this is mono green, we should be fine. They're not going to really interact with our Literal Core. But then our Shieldred kind of just fights token generation. So we'll need to find another thing to put in our graveyard with the Literal Core, which shouldn't be too hard because we're basically drawing 2 cards a turn. And we have the Supreme Will too to find something. Champion of Ronus. Alright, that's kind of scary. I mean, we could probably just go for the throat, whatever comes into play. So I'm not that worried about it. Okay, cool. Emrakul is excellent. So Emrakul, yeah, that's really great. That's going to allow us to have something reanimate. I'm just going to hit their face here. I considered hitting the Planeswalker, but she's at 5. She's not ulting anytime soon. Buried alive, huh? Buried alive, you say? That's interesting. But yeah, I think that Shieldred is the better target here. It's close, but I think that we want to just get more value in this matchup because I don't think we're going to be able to just grind through whatever they bring into play. Like, if it's a Woodfall Primus, maybe. It's a little bit slower. But if it's like something huge, like Pathrazor or something, it's a little bit harder. So, Fierce Empath. Alright. This is a nice little combo blue-green cheats, maybe, because they got a breeding pool. Hmm. I've not seen this deck appear in my cube, so I'm pretty happy to actually see it in action. It's kind of interesting. Terastodon. Alright, Terastodon is going to come down and eat. The thing is, does he really want to eat my lands? Because if he eats my lands, then yeah, we're obviously going to block this Champion Ronus. But if he eats my lands, then we have blockers for all of his stuff, and we can pressure his Nissa more readily. So I don't know if he actually wants to do that. Does he want to blow up his own lands? Because then they just die to Shieldred. This is actually kind of an interesting decision. Like some combination of his lands and my lands. Just my island. Or both my swamps. Those are both options to cut me from a color. If he does blow up my lands, we do have a land in hand, so we're 1 away from Go for the Throat on the Terastodon, which theoretically sets us ahead. It's a shame we didn't have an Urborg, because Urborg plus Shieldred is really great. You get Swamp Walk, we just eat the Nissa, and then start really pressuring because we eat a creature every turn. So he's got to either cast or... Alright, all my lands. Cool. not going to float any mana. I don't have anything, so that'd be silly. Unfortunately, the most recent update to this software made it to where I can't just click on the creature and automatically make the tokens, which is a little unfortunate, but I'm sure they'll fix that in the future. The other thing that's interesting about this position is that we get to draw each turn like twice, so we're more likely to hit a land like we just did. Put Emrakul in the graveyard and say go. Basically, kill my Shieldred, or we're going to have a big 13/13 flyer. And you have no creatures with reach currently, so you know that should close out the game pretty fast, especially since we're going to go for the throat your Terracodon. Of course, he could minus Nissa here and buff his guys, but then he's got to sack one next turn. That's the tricky position of having this Nissa out. So against a Shieldred is that he wants to uptick each turn just to offset the sacrifice, but realistically his creatures really aren't, the 0/1 bodies aren't doing anything, so is it really worth that? Okay, so go for the throat the Terracodon, and then I think, I want to consider combat here for a second. I think if we just attack with, like, Looter, Shieldred, and 2 tokens, so we're going to knock that down, and then shoot the rest at his face. Let's see, yeah. 2 tokens, yeah. So this means that he's got to block some things, and then he would die to the Emrakul next turn. So that worked out. I could bring in Night Incarnate. I think that's kind of my intuition. Because he's got like Champion Ronus, he's probably got Elvish Piper, he's got Dorks and stuff. But I think the rest of our deck is just so good that we don't need it. I just don't think we need anything against this matchup. Like, we're just going to be faster than ramp on average. This hand is serviceable, but not great. Our opponent mulliganed. So we can keep this. Opponent's at 6, and I think we can keep. Mostly just because we can turn 1 opt, and then we have some plays depending on what he does. This is not great, though. We just drew another land in a hand pretty full of lands. Yeah, so play the opt here. Do the top 1. We don't want another one of those. Thank you very much. We get a land anyway. Alright, so we were just destined to draw 7 lands. Alright, that's nice. Necromancy. So I think this turn we just hold up Remand, and then next turn maybe we... yeah, that's definitely a remandable target. We can't censor it, so better to just bounce it. Hornet Queen, look at that. I could just go to my end step and discard the Hornet Queen. I think that's what I should do. So, because then next turn we can Necromancy the Hornet Queen back. Alright, Master. Sure. Just going to wheel this Censor. Okay. Emrakul, sure. no big deal. Yohani's expertise is actually really great. So I think that what we should do is just cast Inquisition here, see what's in his hand, and then we can Yohani's expertise next turn, wipe the board, and get back our Hornet Queen, which is a huge tempo shift. Yep, easy Pact of Negation. He doesn't have any blue sources, but that's a fine take from that hand. He's only got 6 mana right now. He can cast Prime Time next turn if he wants to. We wield the Censor, so we don't really have any interaction, but he might play around it anyway. Yeah, if he doesn't cast Prime Time this turn, we get to wipe the board and get back 6 power. Right? 6 power? Yeah. Oof. That's rough. Alright, so I think that we should cycle this Ash Barrens. That's a card that has been like very reasonable. Not amazing, but like fine. Much better than I expected it to be, and yeah, I've enjoyed it so far in this deck. So, no, sorry, not in this deck, but in the cube since it's been in. So then we're going to cast the Necromancy off of this. Okay, so we're going to get our Hornet Queen. Dun dun dun. So yeah, unfortunately he didn't play the Prime Time last turn, which I don't think would have really been able to do anything. Yeah, okay, he conceded. I think he conceded because he was like, I could have played the Primeval Titan. But all right, so into round 2. All right, well, we won the die roll with an excellent roll of 3. This hand is fine. Yohani's expertise, Oath of Jace, Necromancy. It's a little bit slow, but being able to Oath of Jace with Necromancy in hand is really great. And I think that sets us up for a reasonable amount of play. Obviously, we just saw how powerful Yohani's expertise plus Necromancy can be, so I'm pretty excited to see that happen. My opponent leaves with a Ponder. So maybe Yohani's expertise won't be great, maybe they're not on a lot of creatures, but if they are, it's a pretty powerful effect. Zombify. Alright. I'm sorry too, the arts have shifted. I need to edit my art set for this so that it's most accurate. Alright, so it actually is a deck that we're going to want to have Yohani's expertise against. It's blue-white tempo / aggro maybe. So I'm just going to Oath of Jace now. Draw 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, look, a Shieldred. Perfect. I'll just bin that and Hornet Queen and pass the turn. And we should be able to Yohani's expertise our way to a victory. Ow. Oof. Just pass. Alright. Land. Could just zombify. I think I'll Necromancy instead, though. I cast Necromancy, see if they counter it. This way I dodge things like Disenchant, if they had that main board or whatever. But yeah, I think it could have been better to play Zombify there. They may have been Slight misplay. Okay, Recruiter of the Guard. Glen Elendra. Okay. I think I just cycle my sensor here. Yep. Draw another land. We get to go Thoughtseize into Zombify. We should probably take Bitter Blossom, because that's going to counteract our Shieldred in a way that we don't really want to happen. So, yeah. Not ideal, but it works. So he's on Esper. He's a little bit mana screwed here. He doesn't have the black for Freebooter or Collective Brutality, which would have hurt us significantly, I'd imagine, considering that he could have taken both our Necromancy and our Zombify. How do you get a mana? And there is the mana. So I'm glad I took the Bitter Blossom, because that card really would have messed me up, but okay. Yeah, he just concedes that. Yeah, that makes sense. It's pretty hard to beat through that, and since I can just keep reanimating it's almost like playing Recurring Nightmare there with Shieldred, in that I just keep getting back to Hornet Queen, and that is an engine that's just very hard to beat. So yeah, Knight Incarnate I probably want in this matchup. That's probably it, but I don't know what to cut here. I feel like all of our counter magic is pretty important. Henry's expertise is pretty important. Supremo is good. Remand is okay. Sensor's probably worse than Remand, though. Sure, let's go with that. I think that's pretty close to what I want to do. I think Remand is a little bit better in this matchup, just because he's going to be tapping out a lot of the time and then holding up like just enough to cast his counterspell. So if we're able to just like kind of skate by with an early reanimation, then that's fine. This hand is fantastic. I haven't gotten to play with Volrash Shapeshifter yet, but basically turn 3 Pathrazor is very good. So I'm going to start by Inquisition. See what's in that hand. Can we combo? We just have to find an island. So I'll take Vendilion Click, because that seems like something that's going to interact with me. And I don't want to be interacted with. So, yeah, seems good. So yeah, if we draw an island, we're in great condition. Alright, another swamp. We do have an opt, so it's very possible that we can just find an island. What are we going to play here? Either Oracle or Recruiter. That's a pretty good card, but I don't think we need it. Yep. Fire Shapeshifter. Ponder. Alright. Okay, so they choose not to shuffle. Land, swing. Gladly take the 1. 1, 2, Bitter Blossom. Okay. That's been our Path Raiser. Seems pretty okay. Let's get you for 9. 1, 2, 3. They were very fast on that. They must have known, he's got something with Annihilator. This is going to be unfortunate. It was a fast decision. But let's see what happens. Probably Recruiter of the Guard. I don't know what this player can get. It's another situation. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Oh, Remorseful Cleric. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 permanents, and he's got enough to then play the play the Remorseful and exile my graveyard. So we do need to hit something. We could also just go for the throat his Recruiter of the Guard and force him to sack 3 lands. It's a play that we could make. Oh, Emrakul, great. So we pretty much win here now regardless. We don't have to do that play with the go for the throat. We could have done that to force him off of it, but since he's going to have to pop this, we move to combat. He has to sacrifice before we swing, so he doesn't have to sacrifice 3 permanents. And then we just bin the Emrakul after the trigger is resolved. Alright, head into round 3 then. Alright, so don't know what our opponent's on. We lost the die roll. Okay, Duress, Shapeshifter, Pathraiser, Emrakul seems excellent. Plus a Buried Alive too. That seems like perfect. So I definitely want to keep this hand. We only have 2 islands, so we can't really cast this Duress yet, but like as long as we can cast our Duress before Shapeshifter, we're in good shape. Shifter. Yeah, so, and we're on the draw, so we're pretty likely to find. Okay, go for the throw to some interaction. We do need to find a swamp here, but, you know, if we don't, it's not the end of the world. It just makes it harder to actually, like, play this out and feel safe. Alright, so he's on Jeskai of some sort. Mindstone. Alright, so maybe some sort of control deck. So Duress becomes more valuable, theoretically. Alright, Ash Barrens, we can cycle that, get a swamp. Duress. Okay, so O-Ring, Ballista, Angel of Invention on Crop Crasher. So it's got to be O-Ring. The Ballista is going to be hard to play around, though. Which kind of sucks. Yeah, that just makes it a lot harder for us. Yeah, I guess we just end. It's kind of rough. Yeah, and go for the throat, can't even hit the Ballista, which is just brutal. Yeah, there's not a lot of black removal that actually hits Ballista, because a lot of them say non-artifacts, non-black creature, which is pretty rough. So mega oof here. Alright, Supreme Will, maybe that can dig us to something. Like just a reanimation spell is kind of what I'm thinking. Or like Henny's Expertise or something that can like remove this. Up to 5 lands, you can play the Angel of Invention. So then if you like tapped out for Angel of Invention and we top deck Henny's Expertise, that'd be excellent. Since we know that the Pact of Negations in the cube has already been used, so the only other free counter magic is Daze, and he has no islands, so plays the Crasher. Okay. Don't think we counter that. Impulse mode. Just gonna make a token. My opponent didn't reveal their hand earlier, so I'm just trying to remember that he's got the Angel Invention. I don't remember the other card that was in there, but I know he's got that, so I'm just gonna make this so that I remember. But anyway, now we should resolve our impulse. Hornet Queen, lay bare the heart, Heir of the Falconwrath. At least with Heir of the Falconwrath, we can bin something. I mean, there's an opt, but I think that this is the right pick. It also allows us to kind of block. Okay. I want to use Go for the Throat on the Angel of Invention if I need to. I don't really want to use that on either of the well, I can't use it on the Ballista, but I don't really want to use it on the Crasher. Alright, so I'll block the... Oh, I can't block. Alright, so I'm just going to bin this Path Razor, I think. Actually, I'll just go Emrakul. Oh, it seems my opponent's going to respond to the activated ability. Sorry, I rushed through that a little bit. Okay. Alright, sure, yes, that goes the way good. Didn't really play around that. I guess we buried alive. Oh wait. Well, I already cast it, but the creatures won't end up on top actually. So since that resolves last, so it doesn't actually help my problem. But it does take some fatties out of my deck, so that I'm less likely to draw them, which I guess is good. So maybe I draw a reanimation spell. Oh, you know, I could have actually just played the Shapeshifter, and it would have been a copy of the Heir of the Falcon Wrath. And then if you tried to activate Ballista, I could have just binged the Path Razor. Oh, that would have been better. Oof. Um, yeah, and if I actually, so if I had thought that line through, I could have gone Heir of the Falcon Wrath, been like, go for the throat or whatever, um, or like buried alive, and then just in order to flip it, and then let him ping that creature. It dies, and then I put Shapeshifter in play, and that plays around 2 pings because then I can discard 1, and then he pings in response, so it's still. Oh, no, because I still need 2 mana. I'd still need another mana. So I guess that doesn't work. Hmm. Almost. It's tough. I mean, it's really tough to play this Shapeshifter strategy with a Ballista in play. We really just need a true reanimation spell here. It's committing to the Angel of Invention, maybe? Okay, yeah. We can't even really top deck anything here, because, yeah, Henny's expertise is in our main board and not Night Incarnate, because we need double black in order to successfully do anything. We're going to take 3, and then we're at 7. He can just use 2 counters, 1, 2, yeah, then he's got 5. So I don't know, I don't really think there's an out. Yeah, because like go for throating the Angel of Invention is not amazing. Battle Ball. Yeah, we just didn't get there. We just didn't get there. This is one of those. This is one of those places where having our mana base as what it is less than ideal. And yeah, because not that we didn't draw Yenne's expertise, but we didn't really have an out there. There was no way for us to win that game. Did we? No, we didn't throw away a reanimation spell on our Supreme Will, so I don't really think we misplayed anything. I just don't think that we had the cards to win that matchup. So I think that if we bring in Distress and Night Incarnate and bring in another Swamp, we're in a better position for this matchup. That's not keepable. I mean, it's okay. We have no reanimation, though, and only 1 land, so I think that's definitely a pass on this pack. No lands again, although it's a great hand. I guess we keep this. It's got Duress, Expertise, and Necromancy. There's a land, so it's fine-ish, I guess. Yeah. Our opponent is resolving their moles. We're not doing this in the right order exactly, but... Alright, so my opponent kept his 6. Play my island and pass. I'm really, really unexcited about this hand. Maybe there's some opportunity to bin the Hornet Queen somehow. If there were, that would be excellent, but I just don't, I'm not seeing it, so. Alright. Your turn. I don't think that we want to duress just yet. It seems a little early since we don't really have any of the stuff to set up a combo play. I mean, of course, we could steal something like a cantrip and put us both in top deck mode, but I think on average, as kind of this mid-rangey deck, his deck is going to top deck slightly better than mine. Just given that I need more pieces to make my deck win. Alright, Fire Diamond. Seems good. Sorry. Speaking is challenging. Lay Bare the Heart seems fine here. It can take a creature, which I'm more interested in stealing from his hand at this point. Whereas Duress can only really take interaction. I'll take Nimble Obstructionist, I think. Maybe I just don't care about that. It could stop like a Necromancy trigger, right? Because it's like an ETB effect. And then we just hope that he plays the Icefall Regent for tempo. Yeah, I think that's right. Land? Oof. Alright, well, we're working toward discarding this Hornet Queen, I guess. And then we can exhume it. He gets, of course, his Nimble Obstructionist back, which is oof, but, you know, whatever. Playing out the Icefall Regent. Okay. Alright, cool. We can play our Swamp and then pass. Yeah, I think we want to Swamp here because we might want to work toward a Yahenni's expertise. His game one was very aggressive, and we're going to want to be able to answer if he has more than just this Icefall Regent, I would imagine. Since that's Icefall by itself is a pretty fast clock. But, you know, if he adds anything to that, we're definitely going to want to be able to kill it. Buried Alive I'll take. That's a reasonable top deck. It thins the library by 3 and makes it more likely that we draw a land, actually, which is good here. Or just a castable spell would be great. Let's go Emrakul, Pathrazor, and Sheoldred. Because if we can reanimate the Sheoldred, then we just go off with these giant creatures. And that's a pretty big deal. So now all we need is a land. We don't really need a land, actually. We could just reanimate Sheoldred. Down to 12. Three mana. What is this going to be? True Name Nemesis. Alright. Well, if we find a land, we get to Wrath and Reanimate, which is huge. And that would put us miles ahead, of course, but um, land. Sweet, that works. Yuheni's expertise. No counterspell. And then we can just necromancy our Shieldred into play, please. All right. Let's see your answer, sir. Or not. Preferably not. Theoretically, I could have just played the necromancy and then forced him to sacrifice creatures instead. But I think that clearing his board to stem the bleeding when he's got a Searing Spear in hand and could draw more burn is slightly more optimal. Because at this point he can just easily clock my life down pretty quickly. You know, 12 life is virtually 4 burn spells. So, 2, 3, 4, Sword of Temptation. Oh, that's so yikes. Okay, so we need to find either our Night Incarnate or go for the throat. Alright, so I'm going to duress him. 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so I think our play is duress. He'll Searing Spear in response. We remand our own duress. Draw a card. Maybe that gets us a little bit deeper into our deck. Because Exhume doesn't actually do anything here since we don't have Hornet Queen or Graveyard. We just have big dum-dums. So they just die to the upkeep trigger. Found a land. I guess that's okay. Exhuming isn't really worth it here because that just actually increases his clock. Alright. Yeah, I think we just concede here. I don't think there's any way for us to actually get out of this. We'd have to draw exactly Doomblader, Night Incarnate. Yeah, we just weren't gonna get there. We did have 2 outs. We needed either Night Incarnate, which was that far away, or we had our Doomblade effect go for the throat. So close games. Both games he had really superb answers for what we were able to put into play. You know, Sword of Temptation stealing my Shieldred is about the best way to deal with it you can, and Walking Ballista to deal with my Volrash Shapeshifter is, you know, again, about the best answer you can have. So, alright, so one thing I noticed about those games was that Shieldred actually did a really good job of giving us some resiliency, as well as just keeping pressure off the board for us. Since we didn't have like an Alish Norn or a Bergarden Hellkite, which are the 2 main like board clearing reanimator targets in my cube, Shieldred did a fine job of like mitigating some of the larger threats from my opponents and getting back bigger threats for us, which creates an insurmountable lead. So I was impressed by that. That was my first time playing with Volrash Shapeshifter. I thought it did a really good job of winning game 2 of round 2, I believe. And then in game 1 of round 3, it was a very powerful potential turn 3 play. Unfortunately, our opponent had the right answer, so I really enjoyed that. As much as I didn't enjoy losing, as a cube designer, I enjoyed that interactivity as well as the potential to win that early with a really powerful effect. So I think early on in the draft we saw the Soul Exchange didn't wheel, and that was after we were pretty sure we were going to be in some form of Reanimator deck. We didn't quite know how fast we were going to be, but we had an idea that we'd probably be in Reanimator. And that actually made it to where later in the packs I considered that someone else might be still taking Reanimator things, so I had to take the reanimation spells a little bit higher than I normally would, late in packs that is, because I knew that they might not wheel, which meant that our fixing was a little bit suboptimal, and that came up in a couple games, so I felt that the draft went fairly well. I think that our deck was very cohesive, definitely was able to do its strategy consistently, and you saw that throughout the games, but the mana base was a little strained, and that made it a little bit more challenging to succeed, which did come up when we had a potential out but weren't able to get there. So overall, I enjoyed this draft. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and please subscribe and like our videos.